here in the USA. Watch us via Roku on your smart TV. Submit your own content to 1530entertainmentllc@gmail.com. Download the Millennium TV app from the App Store to stream our shows anywhere, anytime. Millennium TV.
Welcome to Millennium News 24/7 Daily Local News Update. I'm with you, Jasmine Mctague, coming live from Jersey City, New Jersey. Watching the news headlines now, details at this time. Our first story. Andrew Cuomo's precipitous fall from political power as a three-term governor of New York created an open race at the top of the state government, setting the stage for a competitive Democratic primary in 2022 that already includes 4 declared candidates. The candidates, 2 of whom have thrown their names into the ring in the past 2 weeks, bring deep political background and strong ties to their communities. The race comes with additional buzz due to the history-making potential. Sitting Governor Kathy Hochul already took a historic step as the first woman to hold the office following Cuomo's resignation, although a 2022 win would cement her as the first woman elected as governor. While the Attorney General Letitia James, if elected, will be the first Black woman to take the role. The New York Public Advocate, Jumaine Williams, has shown strong support behind his progressive policies and would be the state's first elected Black governor. While Long Island Congressman Tom Suozzi brings over 2 decades of political experience to the table and first ran for governor in 2006. The 4 will be likely not be alone in their bids. Outgoing New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio has formed an exploratory committee, but hasn't announced a run as of yet. The winner of June's Democratic primary will face likely Republican candidate Lee Zeldin, a Long Island congressman. And now, for story 2. Dr. Anthony Fauci, director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Disease and the chief medical advisor to the president, delivers an update on the Omicron COVID-19 variant at the White House on December 1st, 2021, in Washington, D.C. The Center of Disease Control and Prevention, along with the California Department of Public Health, confirmed Wednesday that the case was detected in a traveler who returned from South Africa on November 22nd. The variant was detected using genomic sequencing by researchers at the University of California, San Francisco. The Los Angeles County and statewide leaders have said they do not plan to issue new lockdowns as a means of preventing Omicron from spreading. The epidemiologist said Wednesday, the most important thing is surveillance. We're going to have to look for it, said Dr. Anne Rimonin, a professor of epidemiology at the University of California in Los Angeles. All of these sequencing that we're doing now that is ramping up, I have a feeling we're going to have a lot more information soon. According to the CDC, the person was fully vaccinated and has a mild symptom so far. All the patients' close contact have tested negative so far. This is not a surprise. For those of you that have been following this, we knew that the Omicron was going to be here. We thought it was already here, and we just hadn't detected it yet, San Francisco Health Director Dr. Grant Colfax said in the news briefing on Wednesday. So this is a cause for concern, but it's also certainly not a cause for us to panic. And now for story 3. The San Francisco Archdiocese have been outspoken about the COVID vaccine, encouraging churchgoers to get the shot. However, Archbishop Salvatore Cardellone has yet to vaccinate against COVID-19. Pope Francis, the leader of the Catholic Church, admits he struggles with the skeptics who refuse to get COVID-19 vaccine. In August, the Pope said that we must help others get vaccinated. It is an act of love. Archbishop Cardellone appeared to be on the same page, stating the following, quote, I joined Pope Francis and the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops in advising you to get vaccinated if your doctor recommends it. Except in a recent interview, Cardellone admitted to the San Francisco Chronicles that he has yet to get vaccinated. The Archbishop added, his immune system is strong, and that is his personal physicians told him. It's probably not necessary for him to be vaccinated. That's his opinion, said a person outside of St. Mary's Cathedral, an opinion that is not shared by many in the San Francisco Health Department, who on Wednesday continues urging people to get vaccinated. It is really important. It helps protect you, it helps protect your family, and it helps protect the community. It helps protect others, vulnerable people, insisted Dr. Grant Colfax of the CF Department of Public Health. And now for story 4. Monique Maury was a fetal position and barely responsive while alone in an apartment in South Beach, police said. A friend told police officers she was suffering from a drug overdose. Miami Beach fire rescue personnel rushed Maury on Saturday to Mount Sinai Medical Center. Maury, 33, survived. Officers arrested her on Tuesday and took her to the Turner Guilford Night Correctional Center, where she remains on Wednesday afternoon. Officers reported finding a pellet gun and a safe with heroin, cocaine, meth, alprazolam, oxycodone, and GHB in her apartment near the intersection of Pennsylvania Ave and 9th Street. Maury is also a suspect in shooting on Saturday near the intersection of 9th Street and Euclid Avenue. No one was injured, but the front windshield of a 2015 blue Honda CR-V was damaged. A witness said Maury was arguing with a man, shot at him once, and ran away, according to Miami Beach Police Department arrested form. Maury is facing charges of attempted murder, aggravated assault with a firearm, discharging a firearm in public, possession of heroin with intent to sell, possession of cocaine with intent to sell, 2 counts of possessions of controlled substances, and oxycodone trafficking. And here is a short break of our daily English news, Millennium News 24/7. Stay tuned.
Millennium TV, bridging communities worldwide. We broadcast diverse international content from Europe, Asia, Africa, and now right here in the USA. Watch us via Roku on your smart TV. Submit your own content to 1530entertainmentllc@gmail.com. Download the Millennium TV app from the App Store to stream our shows anywhere, anytime. Millennium TV.
Welcome to Millennium News 24/7 daily local news update. Here is story 5. 2 people were shot after an argument escalated Wednesday night outside a corner near NRG Stadium in the southwest Houston, according to police. Investigators said they were called to a speedy mark off West Ridge Street and West Bartell Drive at about 5:15 p.m. Police said they found a man shot in the spine. A second victim was shot in the ankle but was taken to the hospital in a private vehicle. Police say it appears a group of people were hanging out on the side of the corner store when a fistfight broke out between 2 people. Surveillance video show at least 3 other people pulling out firearms, police said. Police say the crowd scattered as shots were fired. One victim got into a sedan and tried driving away as he was hit in the back. The driver crashed into a parked truck in the Speedy Mark parking lot. That man was taken to the hospital by the Houston Fire Department and underwent surgery. Investigators at the scene told ABC 13 that bullets also hit a nearby apartment building. They say no one inside the apartments were injured. And surveillance videos is being reviewed to determine a possible motive and description of the suspects. And now to story 6. Oxford High School officials had contacted with a suspect and his parents the day before and the morning of the fatal shooting Tuesday at the suburban Detroit school, according to authorities. Oakland County Sheriff Michael Burchard said concerning behavior was at issue, but authorities have not disclosed what exactly was discussed in the meeting. The sheriff spoke to reporters on Wednesday after the 15-year-old suspect in a fatal shooting of 4 Michigan high school students and injuring of 7 others was identified as Ethan Crumberly and charged as an adult. We received no information about this individual prior to the shooting, Burchard said. We also were told that the school had some information or some contact with the individual, but we had no information from the schools. But we have since learned that the school did have contact with the student the day before and the day of the shooting for behaviors in the classroom that they felt was concerning, he added. In fact, the parents were brought in the morning of the shooting and had a face-to-face meeting with the school. The content of that meeting obviously is part of the investigation, but we did not learn of the meeting nor of the content of that meeting until after the shooting and during this investigation. Now on to story 7. The methadone mile roundhouse controversy has come back around as Vixen advocates say Mayor Michelle Wu was told them that the vacant Mass and Cass Hotel is once again on the table for housing nearby homeless. Multiple people in attendance told the Herald that Wu recently held meetings with local politicians and community organizers in the area around the still rough Mass and Cross zone as Wu prepares to make moves in the next 2 weeks. The plan are to make housing available for the homeless still camped out and open air drug market thereby the middle of the month. And one way of doing that, the new mayor's administration is purportedly telling stakeholders could be by putting up the homeless in now vacant Best Western, known as the Roxbury Roundhouse Hotel, that's right in the heart of the Methadone Mile. Then, acting Mayor Kim Janey plans over the summer to work with recovery organizations' victory programs to put up a couple of dozens of people in the vacant 200-room hotel went down in flames in the face of near anonymous community opposition. And it doesn't appear to be getting a warmer reception this time around. This represents the worst possible first step in creating an environment that addresses the problem that we've been seeing. The South End Forum's Steve Fox, who was in on one of the meetings, told the Herald. The mayor's office is talking about working with Boston Medical Center to oversee whatever program is in the roundhouse. BMC didn't respond to the request for comments. The city councilor, Frank Baker, whose district includes much of the Mass and Cass area, penned the hotel plan, which Wu had briefed the council on. I'm totally out of the roundhouse, Baker said, noting that the process for bringing the idea back hasn't been transparent. That is not decentralizing service at all. People are being trafficked, people are stealing, and we're just going to proliferate that, said Baker, who added that only way forward is to commit people for months of treatment before moving them onto the house and job services. We just can't talk about tough love anymore. It's just all coodle, and coodle. And now to story 8. The family of an 18-year-old girl who was shot in the neck is now speaking out. The shooting happened Tuesday night, not far from 110 north of downtown. Dan Garza described how the late night diner outside of the relatives turned into a disaster. His niece, Darlene Graza, was shot following an argument of some sort along Greencrest Drive near Vence and Jackson Road just before 9:30 p.m. So they were eating McDonald's, and then there was a car parked a couple of houses down there, Dan said. The car described by the police was a dark color sedan, drove down Greencast Drive in front of the home where Dan lives. At the time, Darlene was hanging out with families inside another vehicle. Dan claims one of the individuals inside the approaching vehicle was an 18-year-old ex-love interest of a guy Darlene knows. Dan recalls hearing the gunshots as he was inside the house. He saw Darlene walking with her hand up to her neck. They didn't just try to hurt her. They tried to execute her, Dan said. She had moved her hand and then had a hole the size of a nickel. That's when Dan called 911 and followed the instructions of the operator to stop the bleeding. I had to pinch the hole close and wrap a towel around her neck, he said. San Antonio police are looking for an 18-year-old female suspect believed to be involved in the shooting. I feel bad for you because the cops are going to catch you and you're real young, Dan said. And now, a short break from the daily English news of Millennium News 24/7. Stay tuned.
Millennium TV, bridging communities worldwide. We broadcast diverse international content from Europe, Asia, Africa, and now right here in the USA. Watch us via Roku on your smart TV. Submit your own content to 1530entertainmentllc@gmail.com. Download the Millennium TV app from the App Store to stream our shows anywhere, anytime. Millennium TV.
Welcome to Millennium News 24/7 Daily Local News Update. Now on to Story 9. America's defense chief rebuked China on Thursday, vowing to confront its potential military threats in Asia and warning that its pursuit of a hypersonic weapon intended to evade U.S. missile defenses increases tensions in the region. The U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin's stern comments after unusual security talks with South Korea, a top U.S. ally, are a window into one of Biden's administration's top foreign policy worries. How should Washington and its partners contain a Chinese military that is strengthening both in sheer firepower and in confidence as it pursues an end of American dominance in Asia? China sees much of Asia as its natural sphere of influence. But many in the region warn of a pattern of Chinese interference accompanied by moves to acquire the weapons needed to dominate its rivals. Austin's comments were directed at China's July test of hypersonic weapons capable of partially orbiting Earth before re entering the atmosphere and gliding on the maneuverable path to its target. Experts say the weapon system is clearly designed to evade the U.S. missile defense. Although China insisted it was testing a reusable space vehicle, not a missile. We have concerns about the military capabilities that the PRC continues to pursue. And the pursuit of these capabilities increases tensions in the region, Austin said about the hypersonic weapons test, using the abbreviation for the People's Republic of China, the country's official name. We'll continue to maintain the capabilities to defend and deter against a range of potential threats from the PRC to ourselves and to our allies, he said. The Pentagon released on Monday the results of a global posture review that calls for additional cooperation with allies to deter potential Chinese military aggression and threats from North Korea. And now to our story 10. The Kremlin voiced concern Thursday about its described as a belligerent rhetoric of the Ukrainian leadership, saying it raises concerns about a possible escalation of fighting in a separatist conflict in the eastern Ukraine. Ukrainians and Western officials have worried about the Russian troops buildup near Ukraine, fearing it could herald an invasion. But Moscow has insisted it has no such intentions and accused Ukraine and its Western backers of making up the claims to cover up their own allegedly aggressive designs. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said Thursday that the Ukrainian authorities' aggressive and increasingly intensive provocative actions on the line of contract gives grounds for concerns about a possible flare-up of hostilities. He said that the recent statements from the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on other Ukrainian officials indicated that the Ukrainian leadership doesn't exclude a forceful scenario. The probability of hostilities in Ukraine still remains high, Peskov said in a conference called with reporters. Denis Pushilin, the head of the self-proclaimed separatist Republic of Donetsk, said on Russian state television that he could turn to Moscow for military assistance if the region faces a Ukrainian attack. Ukrainian officials have denied an intention to reclaim the rebel region by force. The two ex-Soviet neighbors have remained locked in a tense tug of war after Russia's annexed Ukraine's Crimean Peninsula in 2014, following ousters of the country's Kremlin-friendly president and threw its way behind separatist insurgency in Ukraine's eastern and industrial heartland, known as the Donbas. More than 14,000 people have died in the fighting. President Vladimir Putin has warned NATO against deploying its troops and weapons to Ukraine, saying it represented a red line for Russia and would trigger a strong response. He said Wednesday that Moscow will seek Western guaranteed precluding any further NATO expansions and deployment of its weapons near Russia's borders. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has warned that Putin could quickly order an invasion of Ukraine and said that Washington stands ready to inflict heavy sanctions on Russia if he does. And now for story 11. German Chancellor Angela Merkel and her likely successor met Thursday with state governors to consider tighter rules to curb the coronavirus infection that again topped 70,000 newly confirmed cases in a 24-hour period. Finance Minister Olaf Scholz, who is expected to be elected chancellor by a center-left coalition next week, said Tuesday that he backs a general vaccine mandate, but favors letting lawmakers vote according to their personal conscience rather than party lines on the matter. The rise in COVID-19 cases over the past several weeks and arrival of the new Omicron variant have prompted warnings from scientists and doctors that medical services in the country could become overstretched in the coming weeks unless drastic action is taken. Some hospitals in the south and east of the country have already transferred patients to other parts of Germany because of its shortage of intensive care beds. And now for story 12. The Duchess of Sussex on Thursday won the latest stage in her long-running privacy lawsuit against the newspaper publisher over its publication of parts of her letter she wrote to her estranged father. The Court of Appeal in London upheld a High Court ruling in February that publications of letter that the former Meghan Markle wrote to her father, Thomas Markle, after she married Prince Harry in 2018 was unlawful and breached of her privacy. The publisher of the Mail on Sunday and the Mail Online website challenged that decision at the Court of Appeal, which held a hearing last month. Dismissing the appeal, Senior Judge Jeffrey Voss told the court in brief hearing Thursday that the Duchess had reasonable expectation of privacy in the contents of the letter, and those contents were personal, private, and no matter of the legitimate public interest. In a statement, Megan 40 said that the ruling was a victory not just for me, but for anyone who has ever felt scared to stand up for what's right. While this win is precedent settings, what matters most is that we are now collectively brave enough to reshape tabloids industry that conditions people to be cruel and profit from the lies and pain that they create, she said. The Associated newspapers disputed Megan's claim that she didn't intend the letter to be seen by anyone but her father. They said correspondence between Megan and her then Communications Secretary Jason Knopf showed that the Duchess suspected her father might leak the letter to the journalist and wrote it with that in mind. The publisher also argued that the publication of the letter was part of Thomas Markle's right to reply following a People's Magazine interview with 5 of Meghan's friends, alleging he was cruelly cold-shouldering his daughter in the run-up to her royal wedding. Bavol said that the article, which the Mail on Sunday described as sensational, was splashed as a new public revelations rather than focusing on Thomas Markle's response to a negative media reports about him. And now, a short break from the daily English news
Millennium TV, bridging communities worldwide. We broadcast diverse international content from Europe, Asia, Africa, and now right here in the USA. Watch us via Roku on your smart TV. Submit your own content to 1530entertainmentllc@gmail.com. Download the Millennium TV app from the App Store to stream our shows anywhere, anytime. Millennium TV.
Welcome to Millennium News 24/7 Daily Local News Update. Here is story 13. Greeks who are over age 60 and refuse coronavirus vaccinations will be hit with a monthly fine of more than 1/4 of their pension, a get tough policy that could prove risky for the country's politicians. In Israel, potential carriers of the new Omicron variant could be tracked by the nation's formidable spy agency in seeming defense of the Supreme Court ruling from the last go-round. Weekly protests in the Netherlands over the country's 5 p.m. lockdown and other new restrictions have descended into violence, despite what appears to be overwhelming acceptance of the new rules. I know the frustration that we all feel with this Omicron variant, the sense of exhaustion that we could be going through this all over again, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson said Tuesday, 2 days after the government announced that a mask would be mandatory again in stores and in public transportations and require all visitors from abroad to undergo a COVID-19 test and quarantine. We're trying to take a balanced and proportionation approach. News restrictions or variations on the old ones are cropping up around the world, especially in Europe, where leaders are at pain to explain what looks like a failed promise that mass vaccinations would mean an end to a widely loathed limitation. People need normality. They need families. They need to see people, obviously, safely, social distancing. But I think this Christmas now, people have had enough, said Belinda Story, who runs a stall at the Christmas market in Nottingham, England. In the Netherlands, where the curfew went into effect last week, mounted police patrols to break up demonstrations against the new lockdown, which is among the world's strictest. But most people appeared resigned to rush through errands and head home. And now, story 14. They came with eagle-eyed drones and high-precision instruments. Aided by satellites, they analyzed gas emissions and the flow of molten rock. On the grounds, they collected everything from the tiniest particles to the lava bombs the size of a watermelon that one of nature's most powerful forces hurl as incandescent projectiles. Scientists from around the world are flocking to La Palma, one of Spain's Canary Islands in the Atlantic Ocean, to take advantage of the volcanic eruption happening just an hour drive from the international airport, and the safety of being able to work under the escort of military brigades. They're applying cutting-edge technologies to scrutinize a rare volcanic eruption from the land, the sea, the air, and even space. As in 24 other major live eruptions across the planet, from Hawaii to Indonesia, the ultimate goal on La Palma is to use a unique window of opportunity to better understand volcanic eruptions, how they form, develop, and even more crucially for the islanders, how and when they end. But despite recent technological and scientific leaps, the researchers can only do a lot of estimating of what happens in the underworld where the magma is formed and melts any human-made equipment. The deepest that the humans have been able to drill to the planet's crust has been just over 12 kilometers or 7.6 miles, a feat that the Soviet scientists achieved in 1989. There has been a lot of progress in the last 30 to 40 years in understanding the geological and evolutionary process, but it is still difficult to know for sure what happens at 40 to 80 kilometers or 25 to 50 miles of depth, said Pedro Hernandez, an expert with the Canary Islands Volcanology Institute in Volcan. We are probably beginning to know the stars better than what happens under our feet, he said. Volcanic eruptions are one or at most twice in a generation event in the Canary Islands archipelago, which it lies 100 kilometers or 62 miles northwest of Africa. Some of the Canary Islands are still growing due to the magma accumulating underneath, and as is happening La Palma by forming lava peninsulas beyond the coastline. And now, our story 15. Japan says it has retracted a ban on new incoming international flights bookings to defend against the new variant of the coronavirus only a day after the policy was announced, following criticism that it was an overreaction. The Transport Ministry on Wednesday issued a request to international airlines to stop taking new reservations for flights coming into Japan until the end of December as an emergency precaution to defend against the new Omicron variant. The ministry said Thursday it has retracted the request after receiving criticism that the ban was too strict and tantamount to abandoning its own people. Prime Minister Fumio Kishida said the quick reversal of the policy took into consideration Japanese nationals' traveling needs. Kishida has been pushing to take a strong precautionary measures after his predecessor Yoshida Suga virtually lost his leadership position amid public criticism that his virus measures were too limited and too slow. I have instructed the Transport Ministry to fully pay attention to the needs of the Japanese citizens to return home, Kishida said. The request had aimed to reduce Japan's daily international arrivals to 3,500 from an earlier level of 5,000 to tighten border controls as the new variant spreads around the world, official says. The request issued as an emergency precaution triggered confusion, Chief Cabinet Secretary Hirokazu Matsuno told reporters Thursday. He said the Transport Ministry has retracted the request for a uniform stoppage on new bookings, but a limit remains in place because the daily cap of 3,500 arrivals is being maintained. New bookings can be made as long as there is room under this cap, said the Transport Ministry officials. Hotoyoshi Inui, Japan has already banned entry of foreign nationals from around the world, except for spouses of Japanese nationals, those with permanent residency permits, and others subject to special considerations. Japan has reported 2 cases of the Omicron variant, which has first reported in South Africa last week. Japan has been easing social and economic restrictions after infections rapidly slowed since September. And now for story 16. The killings of at least 65 protesters in Myanmar's biggest city on March 14th this year was planned and premeditated, and the perpetrators must be brought to justice, a rights watchdog said in reports released Thursday. Human Rights Watch accused security forces of deliberately encircling and using lethal force against crowds in Yangon working-class neighborhood of Halang Tharyar that were demonstrating against the military February 1st seizure of power from the democratically elected government of Aung San Suu Kyi. Soldiers and police armed with military assault rifles fired on trapped protesters and on those trying to assist the wounded, killing at least 65 protesters and bystanders, said the New York-based organization. The military-installed government, which imposed martial law in the area after the violence, has described the protesters as rioters who burned down garment factories and blocked firefighters. Human Rights Watch said no action is known to have been taken against any members of the security forces. No government officials were immediately available for comments. Human Rights Watch in Myanmar research Manny Mayun told the Associated Press, the security forces' actions constitute the crime against humanity of murder. Ultimately, the responsibility lies in the command structure and whoever was responsible for ordering the crackdown and implementing the crackdown is responsible, she said. In her opinion, that would be the Yangon regional military commander and the city's police chief. It is necessary to make sure that such figures are made aware that they can be tried and held to account at a later time, she said. Human Rights Watch said it's based its findings on interviews with 6 witnesses, an analysis of 13 videos, and 31 photographs of the violence posted on social media. This was in our daily local news update from Millennium News 24/7. Log in to get the latest news. Our all social networking sites, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, is Millennium News 24. Also, our YouTube channel is News Channel M24. Viewers now on both network broadcasting Androids and iOS devices Apple TV, Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, also all smart TV platforms. Please enjoy our entertainment and the latest news and views. Our Millennium TV app, Millennium TV USA Android, and Millennium News Google. You can also log into www.millenniumtv24.com. Stay tuned with Millennium News 24, and thank you for watching.